Well, welcome everybody. I am Mary Hinkleman, the Executive Director of the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce, and I want to introduce you to our panel this morning. Senator Theresa Gavarone, State Representative Haraz Ghanbari, Pete Prichard, Northwest Community College, and Mary DeWitt, OhioMeansJobs. Thank you all for joining us today. We've been in contact throughout the week, sharing your questions, and we hope to address as many of these as we possibly can at this time. I'd like to remind our audience that if you would like to address the panel at any time, use the raise hand feature. Do we have that feature, Steve? I'm not seeing it at the moment.
Yes, we do.
Tan said yes. Okay, so please use the raise hand feature. You'll be acknowledged and then unmuted so you can articulate your questions. You also have the option of just typing the question for us to read on the panel, where I mentioned down at the bottom where it says enter here. That's on the right hand side down at the bottom. I will turn it over to Theresa Gavarone at this time. Any of our panelists that have something to add to the presentation, please announce yourself and then speak so we know who's talking. Thank you so much and welcome.
Can you hear me, Mary?
I can, Theresa.
Wonderful. Perfect. So everything is working. First off, I want to start out by thanking you, Mary, and the Bowling Green Chamber. You have done a really amazing job providing resources. And I want to encourage anyone who has questions about some of the particular topics we're discussing. The BG Chamber website has links to all sorts of really important information. And I want to thank you and really applaud your good work on this, Mary, and to the BG Chamber. And thanks for putting this together.
Especially Steve and Bethany for bearing with me. Oh my gosh, I have been using my whip on them. No, I'm just teasing. But they really have worked very, very hard. I'm sifting through the information and then putting it out there saying, help me get it where it needs to be. So thanks very much to them.
Absolutely. And so this has been just really, really important. As most of you know, I'm a small business owner myself. Have a business on Main Street in Bowling Green, and certainly understand the impact. And through many conversations over the past couple weeks, you just realize the ripple effect and how this is impacting people through so many different, just so many different aspects. So certainly it's important that we're providing information. We're doing a lot of work to try and help people through this difficult time. Certainly this is unprecedented and never seen anything like this in my lifetime. Hopefully we get through this smoothly and get back to work here real soon. But this week, the Ohio General Assembly passed some important legislation that's expected to be signed by the governor today. May have been signed this morning already, but expected to be signed today. And really, this legislation is aimed at immediate emergency measures, and that I'm hoping that we'll be able to shift that focus to, economic recovery here soon, and different kinds of solutions. But I'm just going to highlight some of the aspects of this legislation, House Bill 197, that we passed this week. And it's 128 pages of amendments that went into this. So I'm just going to hit a few of them that I think people might find interesting, but certainly be happy to answer questions on any others. But one thing the bill does is it prohibits public water disconnections during and these are temporary measures. These are only during this emergency or until December 1st of 2020, whichever occurs first. So it prohibits public water disconnections during the pandemic, since they're not governed by UCO, non-disconnect orders. So if you're not able to make your water payment, they won't be able to disconnect you on that. It is going to extend the validity of licenses that are issued by state agencies and political subdivisions, and provides a 90-day window for renewal. So if your driver's license expires, this it gives you a little bit of an extension, because it's going to be difficult for people to do that right now. It also allows schools to operate electronically through distance learning. And as we've seen in practice, I can't say enough good things about our educators, our superintendents, the quick conversion to online learning, and making sure students have Chromebooks and access to technology so that they can learn from home. I mean, it's really impressive. And I've spoken with superintendents from all over the district, and the work that they've done so quickly. I just can't say enough good things. And I'm really hoping that our kids are getting everything they need throughout this time. So distance learning, it also waives, regarding school, again, waives the state testing this year and the report cards for 2019-2020 school year, and creates a safe harbor from sanctions for schools. It permits seniors to graduate if the school determines that student was on track to graduate prior to this emergency, and they determined that graduation should take place. Also, if the local school would determine promotion for the third grade reading guarantee, and it makes evaluations permissive and prohibits the use of value-added data, and excludes academic performance data from being used in sponsor ratings this year. Okay, and it allows the chancellor and state superintendent to waive college credit plus timelines and requirements during this emergency. It also addresses ed choice. I know there was a lot of concern about the April 1st deadline and what was going to happen with those ed choice schools. As you remember, there were over 1,200 schools that were going to go into ed choice next school year. Well, what we've done is we've kind of frozen in time to what it was last year. The schools that were on ed choice last year are going to be on ed choice, the only ones on ed choice this coming school year. So just want to make sure that people understand that we went ahead and addressed that, and then there'll be time for us to continue that conversation and continue that work to really do the deep dive and make sure we're getting it right. So that conversation is going to continue, but for next school year, it will be a continuation of what it was for the last school year. So it codifies the governor's executive order relative to unemployment compensation. So it waives that first week waiting period, and it changes eligibility to include COVID-19 related unemployment situations, and it waives the work search requirement. So, and it also, what we've done is we've kind of gotten in sync with the federal tax changes, and the filing tax deadline will now in Ohio be moved from April 15th to July 15th. And so that'll extend the date for estimated payments, waives interest payments, penalties already able to be waived. And and it also notwithstands the 20-day rule under the municipal call came in. So I apologize if that stopped for a second. So people are working from home for more than 20 days under under the municipal income tax for employees working from home during that emergency. So, and it also extends the due date of state administered municipal net profit tax. And it addressed a lot of different issues here, but it also addressed the election. Our primary election date was March 17th for the primary election. And so what we've done is we've extended absentee voting
Theresa,
April 28th. Yes.
Teresa, hey, I do have a question from Anthony Pima. He is asking if there's any discussion of postponing the state or city taxes, or if it's just federal.
Oh, yeah. Yes. We synced up the state taxes to align with federal taxes.
So it's federal, state, and city.
The city, what we've done, regarding the taxes, it extends the due date of state administered municipal net profit tax
And that is till July 15th, correct?
to July 15th.
Thank you.
So I need clarity on what happens to other municipal income tax requirements, but the state and the state administered municipal net profit tax have been extended to July 15th. So I hope that answers the question. So Mary, if there wasn't a follow-up question there, the absentee ballot voting can go until April 28th. And so the absentee ballot would need to be postmarked by April 28th to address the primary election. And hopefully that gives our schools who have levies on the ballot, gives some time. You know, you're trying to balance a lot of different interests there, making sure everyone has an opportunity to vote, and also addressing the need for certainty going forward. So I'm hoping that some of those measures help address some of those concerns. So, and I know that I've been hearing a lot about unemployment and concerns. I mean, things have been just swamped with people applying because of the current situation. I heard John Husted yesterday mention that if you can't get through to apply, that the unemployment compensation will be retroactive to the time that you qualify, which hopefully will help some people out. So that's kind of what we did in just a highlight of some of the provisions in House Bill 197, which we passed on Wednesday, and which the governor's expected to sign today. But there's still a lot of different things going on. I'm seeing stuff on my screen, so I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So this technology is kind of new for me, so I apologize if I stop for a minute and I'm looking at my screen. But certainly want to make sure that people who are out of work right now are able and have the ability to apply for unemployment. And there's a whole bunch of information through some of these links that the BG Chamber has included. Now, currently, self-employed individuals, and I've heard from a lot of people who are self-employed or 1099 contractors. They're not currently eligible for unemployment benefits, but Governor DeWitt has asked the federal government to implement the disaster unemployment assistance program. And I know there's a federal package that I believe it passed the Senate and is in the House in Washington to help address things at the federal level. And hopefully that will provide some relief to our independent contractors and our self-employed individuals. It's something we're certainly keeping an eye on, and hopefully that will expand some of this unemployment to some self-employed people and part-time workers. So I think the House may be voting on that maybe even today. So certainly stay tuned. I'm hoping that'll help some people out. There's also a Shared Work Ohio program, and that's a voluntary layoff aversion program. So it would allow workers to remain employed and employers to retain their trained staff during the times of reduced business activity. So under this plan, the participating employer reduces the employee's hours in a uniform manner, and the participating employee works the reduced hours each week, and Job and Family Services provides unemployment benefits proportionate to their reduced hours. So that may be another option for people to get some relief in this difficult time. There's a small business administration loan plan, and this is something like a reduced interest rate loan that some small business may be eligible for and could apply for to also get some relief during this time. I've been hearing from people all over I'm sorry, I keep seeing things flash up on my screen, but hearing from people all over the district. And as a small business owner myself, I certainly, it's a scary time because we don't know exactly how long this is going to last. I'm hoping that we flatten that curve and we're back to work here soon. But, we're going to just keep going forward and trying to help people through this difficult time. And then hopefully before you know, we'll be turning to economic recovery with getting everyone back to work. So those are just a few of the issues that I thought I would discuss today, and certainly want to open the floor to questions that people may have. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to share some of this information today.
Thank you, Theresa. Haraz, would you like to address any of these questions that are coming across?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Mary, can you hear me okay?
Definitely.
Okay, perfect. So, again, it's great to be with you all. And like Senator Gavarone indicated, I too just want to take a moment just to say thank you and your colleagues for setting up this meeting where we could have some dialogue and continue to talk about how we here in Wood County and how our fellow Ohioans across the state will continue to respond to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. One brief clarification that I did just want to note, Senator Gavarone mentioned some changes to the election. There's been a lot of confusion surrounding the election, how that was canceled, the time at which that was canceled. I will say this, the election date is the election date. So the election date has passed. So what we are doing now in this legislation that Governor DeWitt has indicated he will sign this afternoon in the press conference pertaining specifically to the date. If you look legislation, there's a section here in the draft legislation. I can give you the line number. It's 21656. What this says is that it must be postmarked by on or before April the 27th. So that's just one clarification that I wanted to follow up on Senator Gavarone's point. I believe she mentioned the 28th. The legislation as it was passed unanimously by the Senate and the House, those ballots must be postmarked on or before April 27th. There will be some additional caveats in there that will provide for individuals that are blind, have a disability, or homeless to vote in person. But for everyone else, that's going to be a mail-in ballot process that must be postmarked on or before April 27th. So if you have any additional questions on that, I would encourage you to contact our Wood County Board of Election for the latest information on that. But again, all of this is pending Governor DeWitt's signature, which is scheduled to happen during the press conference this afternoon. A couple other things that I just wanted to mention regarding the unanimous legislation that we passed in the House and the Senate is that this was a concurrence vote. So this was a House bill that was amended in the Senate. Once the Senate voted on that and it came to the House, there was no opportunity for any floor amendments at this time. So it was a simple concurrence or non-concurrence vote. The Senate and the House both passed this unanimously. And I believe that that really underscores the importance of collaboration, in a bipartisan fashion as we are working to make sure that Ohio is best prepared to respond to these challenges. And as we work through this to come out stronger on the other side. On that note, I did want to share that Speaker of the House, Larry Householder, has proposed a COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force. Right now, resources here in Ohio and across the state are invested in working to make sure that everyone remains safe and healthy. But as we get through this and as we remain focused on tomorrow, the days and the weeks ahead, we want to make sure that we are transitioning so that we can restart Ohio's economic engine to make sure that small business owners can continue to be impactful in their communities, that people that want to work have all the opportunities to work and provide for their families. So a lot of the attention, as the senator noted in her update, really does revolve around the day-to-day challenges that we as a community and as a state are confronting. And a lot of that revolves around making sure that our families and our communities remain healthy and safe. A few other things that I want to touch upon when it comes to economic development and our essential businesses and our essential employees. The governor and Dr. Acton have indicated every day during their afternoon press conferences from the State House that it is important that we are taking proper measures to make sure that our employees and our businesses, as well as our fellow citizens that are going to the grocery store and going out and about for essential items, are taking the proper precautions. There's been several stories in the last week, even just as recently as I believe last night, the Toledo Blade reported that in Lucas County, there are 2 Lucas County Health Department employees that have been diagnosed with COVID-19. So what I'm asking you is to please make sure, as you are an essential business, that you are not only screening folks that are coming to your business, but that you are also screening and taking proper precautions for your employees. Dr. Ted Bolus, one of our Wood County commissioners, shared some important updates this week as the county commissioners and the elected officials across Wood County were on a teleconference call this week. So again, if you go to the coronavirus.ohio.gov website, that is the state's central repository for information, best practices, as well as the orders that Dr. Acton has been signing to make sure that all Ohioans are remaining informed on this. But I would just encourage you to wash your hands for the 20 seconds with soap and running water. Take temperatures if you can of your employees that are coming in. I created a checklist that I shared on my Facebook page that would allow you, if you wanted to use that for your employees, to put a date and a time and go through a series of questions even before they come to work. That way, just another screening process, because what is so important to me and many of my colleagues in the House and in the Senate is to make sure that Ohioans, again, are safe and are remaining healthy. And part of that is taking those proper precautions. On that note, as I indicated, the vote this week was a concurrent vote, so no opportunity for floor amendments. I introduced a piece of legislation this week directly aimed at helping to protect our first responders. And in the language I introduced, the terminology was emergency medical workers, but it's really a broad term that encompasses our first responders. The intent of this bill really came out of the situation with the first patient in Ohio that unfortunately and unexpectedly passed from COVID-19. The purpose of this legislation would be to require hospitals and health departments to notify those emergency workers that may have treated or transported a patient that is either tested positive for COVID-19, that is a presumptive test positive for COVID-19, or a high index of suspicion. I'm really concerned about our first responders, not just in Wood County, but frankly across the state. We need to make sure that they are able to continue to respond to our calls for service. So just a piece of information for you as you're talking with folks in your community is, if you are calling either someone to your business falls ill and needs transportation to the hospital, or if you have a citizen that comes into your business that falls ill that needs transportation to the hospital, when you are calling 911, please make sure to relay to them any additional information that you may have, such as this person may have traveled overseas or exhibiting respiratory distress or has a high temperature, things along those lines. All of our emergency medical workers right now are responding to, our businesses and our homes under the presumption that everyone is positive for COVID-19. Along those lines, I want to take a moment to our business leaders to ask if you have any personal protective equipment, that you are not using, if you would please reach out to the Wood County Emergency Management Agency. Jeff Klein and his team at the EMA are our first point of contact here in the county for PPE. There is a critical shortage of PPE with our first responders, and so for dentists and veterinarians and others that may be at the point in which they are not performing any elective procedures as Dr. Acton has ordered, if you have any additional PPE in your business that you can donate to the Emergency Management Agency, I would highly encourage you to contact Jeff Klein at the Wood County Emergency Management Agency. Lastly, on that note, I just want to reassure you that my office remains open and responsive to your calls. We are teleworking right now. My staff is teleworking from home. I am here at home right now. We are not sure at this point in time when the next House session or when the next committee meetings will be scheduled. We will not be performing the state's business via teleconference or video conference as of the last guidance that was put out to us just this week. The piece of legislation that the governor intends to sign will provide some provisions for our local boards, city councils, township trustees, and others to conduct their meetings via teleconference or video conference, as long as they continue to follow and adhere to guidelines and rules that require notification of those meetings and so on and so forth. So lastly, I would encourage each of you to, if you go to the Ohio legislative website, you can type in House Bill 197 and you can read the entire legislative package that was passed unanimously by the Senate and the House. Secondly, I would encourage you, if you're so inclined, you can go to ohiochannel.org. That is a very resourceful website in which we are doing all we can down at the State House to broadcast the committee meetings and the sessions live to continue to fulfill that transparency that all Ohioans expect of us. Additionally, at that website, if something has been broadcast live, they also archive it. So you can go back and you can watch the House session this week. You can watch the Senate session from this week in which we voted on this legislation. But that is also the website where Governor DeWine's daily press briefings are broadcast live and are archived. So it truly remains an honor and a privilege to serve all of you. I look forward to answering questions from all of you with my colleagues on the panel today. And rest assured that leadership at all levels remain engaged in this important issue. Just this week, Senator Gavarone and myself and some of our colleagues in the Senate and the House in Northwest Ohio, we were on a rather lengthy teleconference with Congressman Bob Latta, getting updates from him and our colleagues on the federal level, providing him some feedback based upon questions that we fielded from many of you regarding things like the Small Business Administration, a disaster loan that is providing up to $2 million at low interest rates for our small business owners, talking about steps that banks are taking to help small businesses. For example, Huntington Bank deferring some of the payments, the monthly payments that are required on those small business loans. So we are remaining engaged at the local level with our Wood County commissioners and our elected leaders across Wood County, at the state level in the House and the Senate, as well as at the federal level. So please, again, just continue to reach out and we will do what we can to answer your questions. And I just encourage you all to stay safe, and thank you all for participating in today's call.
Thank you, Haraz. I want to see if you can unmute Amber Hawkins, Steve. She had a question. If not, I can read her question.
She can talk now.
Amber? Are you still there?
Oh, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I was just going to stay on mute. But thanks for the opportunity. Just several questions I have. Actually, I typed in one of them as far as the question in regards to partial unemployment.
If you want to go ahead and ask the question.
Oh, okay. As I was saying, number one, I know of a lot of people who, whether they have full or part-time jobs, either their jobs have reduced their hours or only working sporadically. And I was wondering if they qualify for partial unemployment.
Mary DeWitt, is that something you can answer for her?
No.
Okay.
No, I can give some guidance though.
Okay. And when you're done, Mary, Haraz also said he has an answer too.
Well, he can go first.
Is he unmuted, Steve? Thank you.
Sure. So we fielded a similar question in my office this week, and I think there's some similarities. The question that we fielded pertained to, in the case of this constituent, they are a factory worker that was laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and they are also a volunteer fireman. The question arose is during this time, as a volunteer firefighter, if they still need to report their volunteer kind of a per diem that they receive, and if they would still be able to receive any type of unemployment compensation. So first and foremost, let me address the point about our unemployment website. The administration, the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, is well aware of the amount of Ohioans that are going to that website. That website at times gets overloaded, and folks are having a lot of challenges getting their applications through. What I was told by the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services is your unemployment benefits would be retroactive to the date that you became unemployed. So in other words, if you become unemployed on Tuesday and you try to get onto that website Tuesday, Wednesday, but you can't get on until Thursday, Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services has indicated to me that your unemployment benefits would be retroactive back to Tuesday, since that's the day that you were laid off. More specific to the question of part-time employment or if you're having more than one source of income, this is what I will share with you from the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services pertaining to the fire question. But again, I believe this would still be applicable in your situation. They said, quote, the earnings from the volunteer fire work, you can substitute that and say from any type of volunteer or part-time work, should be reported each week when the claimant files their weekly benefits. Earnings may reduce the amount of benefits received for the week. Earnings up to and including 20% of the weekly benefit amount do not reduce the week. Earnings over 20% of the weekly benefit amount reduce the weekly amount dollar for dollar. If the earnings equal or exceed the weekly benefit amount, then no benefit is payable for the week. The weekly benefit amount is determined for each claimant, and they are notified of that amount when they get their initial determination allowing benefits. Hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity.
It provides a little bit, but then at the same time, there still needs to be some clarification. And I'll ask the one for my business in a moment, but like I had said in the question, this is a situation I know that a lot of people are going through. There are not people who are laid off, but there are people who, as I used in the scenario, they work their regular full or part-time hours, for 2 weeks, but due to COVID-19, their hours have either been drastically reduced or to the point where they're not working now, and they say, and they got information that they're to report back to work maybe April 1st or a little bit after, and that's stressed in the email possibly, depending on how things are going.
So I appreciate the follow-up on that. I will route that question up to the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. Just to clarify, your question specifically is, what benefits are there if a person that normally works 30 hours a week or 35 hours a week due to the COVID-19 pandemic is now only working 10 hours a week? They're not working the full potential. However, they're still employed, but just not to their full earning potential that they were before this happened.
And that's
Okay, I'll follow up on that for you. Thank you.
Thank you both. Was that everything, Amber?
that's everything. The
Thank
other question, I'll just have to type it in.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Melinda Kale had asked for unemployment. Do we know if reimbursing employers will receive a credit just as the contributing employer is receiving credit? Does anybody want to kind of touch on that, or if you need additional information from what she is asking? I'm not sure that it's clear.
Mary, here's just what I'll say. I'm taking some notes here on some of these questions. If there's answers that the panel is not able to provide, if you or your team there are also taking notes on these questions, we will take those for action. We will do what we can to get answers to those. And then once we have the answers to those questions, we can send those back to you if you want to distribute them to those that called in for those that were unable to answer.
That would be wonderful. I was going to suggest that too, that we could send any answers out to the group since we have their emails. So from Brandon Mogart from Catherine's Insurance, he asked, how will laying off an employee affect my unemployment rates if I never had to lay an employee off before? And I do believe that I read something that it was not going to affect their rates. Is that correct? Mary DeWitt.
This is Mary DeWitt. You said this was Brandon from Catherine's Insurance?
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of did some research on that, and Governor DeWine does allow unemployment benefit charges. Hang on. COVID-affected contribution to the employers will receive regular monthly charge statements, but these charges will be changed to the mutual account and not the employer's accounts. Reimbursing employers will follow existing charging requirements under Ohio Revised Code Chapter 4140, if that makes any sense. So I'm thinking that whatever this mutual account is instead of the employer's account, maybe our state reps can clarify that.
Mary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is Theresa Gavarone. I'm so sorry about that. I was trying to answer before, and I actually even sent you a text message. My office did a little homework on that too, and my understanding is that the cost on the businesses utilizing unemployment, the premium costs, taxes, rate increases will be mutualized by the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. And Mary may have more information on how that mutualization works. Mary DeWitt.
Theresa, I'm sorry, Theresa, I don't.
Okay, and it's something we can look at and follow up on.
This is I would just like to share with everyone that the Ohio Department of Job and Family Resources has a dedicated page right now that they are titling the Coronavirus and Unemployment Benefits. There's a lot of useful information on that site as well, also pertaining to health insurance benefits for folks during their unemployment. Again, that's the Job and Family Services.ohio.gov website. They have stood up a very useful link pertaining to the COVID-19 info. And I would also just encourage that as another helpful resource as well.
Amber asked what that link was again. If you wouldn't mind typing it in, please, Haraz.
You bet. I will share that with the whole group here. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Melinda Kale did get back to us, asking for clarification to her previous question. Legislation addresses giving a tax credit to employers who are paying a set amount to unemployment throughout the year. However, employers who pay the unemployment charges based on when an employee files has not been addressed for a tax credit. Is there any response from anyone for this question, please? Okay, Melinda, we'll try to get further clarification on that for you, if we can find the answers. Annette Dewar from A Cut Above Hair Salon, she asked, could there be unemployment compensation for business owners of hair salons? We still have bills to pay with no income coming in. Theresa, I think you had looked into an answer on this.
Theresa, you may be muted.
Oh, shoot. Can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear you now.
thank you.
Okay, I was sorry. I just gave a brilliant answer. I'm sorry that you missed that, but no, I'm glad I'm unmuted at this point. No, I appreciate that question from Annette, and I heard from Annette and many other self-employed individuals who are really hurting at this time. But my understanding is that at the federal level, there is a piece of legislation that passed the Senate, passed the Senate, and it's in the House right now, that could provide some relief for self-employed and 1099 contractors. So I certainly, I'm hopeful that will pass and that will provide some kind of unemployment compensation to these individuals. I know Governor DeWitt had asked for relief under this. So I'm hopeful that will pass and we'll be able to help out our small businesses and independent contractors like Annette. She does a great job. She's a friend of mine. So I'm hoping that she sees some relief.
Thank you, Theresa.
I could, Mary, chime in on that real quick.
Yes,
so,
please.
SBA regional administrator is actually the vice mayor of Kettering, Ohio. So it's great that we have an SBA resource right here in the state of Ohio. I've been in touch with him, and this morning followed up with the Cleveland office. There was a question that came in dealing about the small business loans title. I'm not sure who the question was from, but I called him this morning, and the challenge at this time is the legislation on the federal level is still going through the legislative process. And during that process, things can be added or deleted. So the feedback from him was, all I can say at this point is, quote, it's pending legislation which could change as it goes through Congress. Once the legislation passes, we will have additional information as to how it affects and dismiss small businesses and the lending community. I remain, and I believe many of our colleagues in the state and the federal level remain optimistic that the situations that we are discussing right now will be addressed adequately in their interest in the final legislation, so long as it doesn't keep getting put in or taken out, and all these kind of additional amendments are flooding into the bills. We want to make sure that the bill is as clean as possible. And, when you look at the bill that was passed in the Ohio Senate and concurred on in the Ohio House of Representatives, it was a clean bill. There wasn't anything that was tacked onto there for any kind of a hidden project. So we are confident and hopeful that our colleagues on the federal side will take the same type of approach to making sure that the bill is as clean as possible, so that we can get these resources from the federal level out into the folks here in Ohio.
Thank you. Amber had an additional question. She was asking if the SBA loan it was an SBA loan question. Is there assistance if you've never filled out an SBA loan application before?
Theresa, your microphone, my friend. There you go.
Can you hear me? Thank you very much. I appreciate your assistance on that. You can contact the SBA or the Ohio Development. It is a really good place to start. There's a whole lot of information. I actually, you can see, was able to get on the website. And these links, I believe, are all available through the BG Chamber, including the Job and Family Service link. If you get on the BG Chamber website, it's a wealth of information. But it's a 3-step process, and the information is pretty handy. But if there are any questions, there's also a customer service number at the bottom of the page. And I can give you that number right now if you'd like. It's 1-800-659-2955.
And that information, sorry, Theresa.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, Theresa. It was Mary. I was going to say that the links are there for the SBA, and I believe that phone number is up there also. And it is pretty guiding when you get on there. Don't be intimidated. Yes, the resources at the phone number if you do need them.
So I hope that helps. Certainly there's a lot of information on that link that to guide you through it, and then a phone number if you need help.
Okay, we are getting pretty close. And I know there's a little more information to cover. Christy Peak of the United Way had asked, what are the details of the enhanced unemployment aid? I think we covered that pretty well. And Christy, there is a lot more information on the Chamber website on that program also. Did anyone want to add anything at this time for Christy?
Thank you, Mary. I just sent in another question as well. I missed the answer to what if you are not getting as many hours as you normally do, but are still employed.
I took that question down from Amber earlier, and I will follow up with our folks.
Okay, I thought you said you would follow up. I was like, did I miss his answer, or did he say he'd follow up? Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
For action. Mary, I do want to I said I have that question for action, meaning I'm going to follow up on that and get back to you all.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Mary, I do want to have a brief point here regarding a question that some of small business owners have reached out to me on, and that is dealing with the deferment of small business loans during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I apologize if I'm looking away from the screen. I want to share these notes with you and make sure they're correct. So
Okay.
This is so this information is directly from the U.S. Small Business Administration, from their lead lender relations specialist in the Cleveland district office. A question was brought forth about the ability for small businesses to defer their Small Business Administration loans if you have one of those SBA loans through the COVID-19 pandemic. And I just want to share with you all what the SBA provided to me that I provided to this small business owner. They said, quote, lenders may grant deferments in accordance with the SBA's SOP, which is just an acronym for Standard Operating Procedure, with SOP 5057, which is available publicly on the SBA.gov website. The lender should refer to Chapter 12, which is known as the deferments chapter. And this is what it says. Lenders are permitted unilateral authority to offer 6 consecutive months of deferments as long as the loan is in regular servicing currently. Lenders are also permitted to extend the maturity date with notice to SBA via a system known as ETRAN, which is ETRAN. If the loan was sold on the secondary market, then the lender would only be able to offer a 3-month deferment unless they receive the concurrence of the secondary market investor. So I had a call this morning from a small business owner here in Perrysburg, Ohio, that is concerned that he has some property in which other small businesses rent from him. And he said, hey, these small business owners have already contacted me, and they've already told me they're not going to be able to make their monthly kind of rent payments to me. And he said, absent those rent payments, he himself will not be able to fulfill his mortgage to his bank. And he told me within the next 2 to 3 months, unless something turns around here in short order, he will likely become bankrupt in that business. So I want to make sure that people understand that even if you call the bank, this is uncharted waters for many folks. And so oftentimes the bank may not be having these type of in-depth questions, but there are resources available for our small business owners on the SBA.gov website. And so I actually provided this, and what I will do is I will share this email with Mary, and if Mary would like to share that with all of you, it contains a couple of screenshots of the SOP in there. So as you are reaching out to your banks and your lenders, if they are not aware of the SBA programs and some of the caveats that are laid out in their standard operating procedure, I would encourage you to share this information with them, because not only at the end of the day, it may help you, it may help others here in Wood County as well.
Thank you.
Can I chime in, Mary?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me? Hi. I also wanted to say the great thing about our area is our chambers of commerce do such a great job, and they work together. And I wanted to make sure that people know there's an additional resource available in the area. The Toledo Chamber, SBDC can assist. Their office can assist with this, and the phone number is 419-243-8191. They can help with the SBA loans as well. So I just wanted to add an additional resource for people who may need help walking through this.
Okay, and that's on our website too, Theresa, and we did type that
everything.
And we typed that in on the chat too with a contact for Bill Wurzel. Yeah, so I know that Pete wanted to mention a resource that he has. Steve, can you put that slide up for us, please? And Pete, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah,
Perfect.
it's interesting as we've and the information that's received today is awesome. But we created this West Wood County Manufacturing Academy blog spot about 6 months ago. Mary and I wanted to make sure that we had information that went out to the employers, just to kind of keep them current on what's happening with the area, what type of resources they could use in order to, at that time, recruit and retain and train talent in our program. Since the COVID crisis has taken place, we've kind of shifted things, and we have had a plethora of information that's come out right away. So between Mary and I and the information we're getting locally, we're trying to post things that have that is relevant to the employers. So we provided this information, and I try to update it regularly. I think I made more updates in it in the last couple of weeks than I did probably in the first few months. So and I actually, hearing the information I got today, I'd also like to update that information too from representatives and the senator in terms of making sure that we could have access to a small area. Could link in other websites, and there's a lot of good information out there. Sometimes if you're like me and you start doing searching for some things, I get distracted and I go off to a different angle. So we're trying to put things into like a little resource, so at least you could say I could look one page and maybe find some of that information in place. We do have some articles that are archived as well about some of the things that's happening, and we'll continue to update those things. And when we're on the other side of this area, we plan on using this tool so people could tap into that resource to access the issues that we've been working with in the last year or so. So that's it.
Thank you, Pete. Mary DeWitt, did you have anything you wanted to add before I give the final of my information? Mary? Okay, so I'm not hearing from Mary. Haraz did type in here. I have a follow-up. You are sharing our contact information at the end, and yes, we are. But at this time, I would like Steve to put up our website. I just wanted to go through that really quick. We do have the most current information from the governor's office available here. And the information on the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, one-time liquor buyback, the Bowling Green Economic Development Revitalization Loan. So if you're not sure that the SBA loan is what you want, make sure you check out what Bowling Green Economic Development is offering. $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, and $10,000 loans. So check that out. The contact information is there. Wood County Hospital gave us a link also, so you can see their most current information, as well as our investor responses on the COVID-19. They've been wonderful in sharing their information on what other businesses can do. I'm also expecting to hear from Paramount. They are our MIWA provider today on concessions they're making for those that are enrolled in that group. I encourage you all to listen to the morning show, 88.1 FM, 6 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, for all the local updates. The host, Clint Corp, is working so hard to keep all of us informed. Clint has even opened up some interview spots for businesses to be able to let us know, let the public know that they've adjusted their hours and how they're operating safely for the public. To arrange that interview, you can contact me directly at director@bgchamber.net, and I will get a spot with him for you. Steve, can you put our contact slide up at this time, please? And we'll leave that open so you guys can jot down that information. And please, I want you to all stay safe. I appreciate everybody on our panel contributing today.